where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long, got to keep.
The first step in generating wealth is to pay yourself first.
But now everybody knows.
Stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
There's a lot of different types of HELOC products that are now on the market, some of them geared towards velocity banking, and that's really good news.
This is probably the largest asset you will ever have in your life.
Right.
Here's some direction and some instruction on how to leverage this vehicle so that you can help yourself, help your family, accomplish your goals. We're not educated that way.
We use a strategy to pay off our home in 4 years.
Validation of your retirement account says what you thought was a retirement account is no longer one.
When I tell you, you're going to be shocked to learn. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you. So it starts with pay yourself first today,
Yeah, starting today.
right now. Put your money in somewhere secure. It's about the ability to not lose. I will take base hits all day long versus winning and losing. Somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you leverage OPM, other people's money, to exponentially grow it. That's how you generate wealth.
So whether you're joining us to crush debt or build wealth, time is the most valuable asset.
and we're so grateful that you're spending your time here with us.
Keep going.
Good evening. Welcome back. Tonight we're having a discussion about a very controversial topic on our new channel, and we want to know what you think. Is paying off your mortgage early better than investing? If paying off your mortgage early could actually be one of the worst financial moves you could ever make, would you still do it? We know that it sounds responsible, safe, smart, but when you run the numbers and factor in what most people miss, that's the key. The truth flips. You could end up locking away your money, killing your growth, and having to beg the bank to use your own cash when you need it most. Not to mention a factor of it's not if you'll need it, it's when you'll need it. So today we're going to walk through all three paths, paying off your home early and allocating your cash flow to that path, investing your money, or waiting until you are done paying off your home early to invest the cash flow that's freed up from that point forward. That's what we're going to go through. So we're going to see what happens in real dollars and what most people don't see until it's too late. So stick around and find out. You ready?
So here's the thing. There's so much conditioning in this subject because, like, logically, me paying off my home, like, there's no question that that's not what I should be doing.
Right.
The issue is the time that it costs you to do so. And so the pieces that I think what we want to make sure we walk through tonight is kind of peeling back some of the layers around what's impacting and why. So what are the reasons why we focus on paying off our home versus what if we leveraged our home to actually do more? And again, it's so rooted in conditioning. It's rooted in who benefits from us not using or leveraging our home in this fashion. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. And what if it wasn't this or that? What if you didn't have to choose? And that's what we're also going to talk about. So I hope that you enjoy this breakdown, this deep dive. And if you have questions, put a Q in front of your question here in the chat so that we can answer them while we are live. If not, if you're watching the replay, put them down in the comments and we will get to them as soon as possible. All right, you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's jump in.
1, 2, 3.
The goal should be, where can I achieve exponential growth? Exponential growth.
Let's just get into it. Let's just get
Five more for me, sweetheart. Here we go. So, and we're calling it the 500-month dilemma, mainly because the example that we're going to walk through today is what would happen if you had an extra $500 a month to be able to put towards your mortgage? Should you? Would you? What are the results if you do? And is paying off your home early may feel like winning, but what if it actually triggers a loss, and it's a loss that you can't necessarily afford? So we want to kind of just break down what this looks like. Hold on, let me do some housekeeping here. I want to break down what that looks like. What would you do with an extra $500 a month if you were able to put that towards your mortgage and pay it down faster? Should you? And what's that impact? And so as I kind of mentioned earlier, this is not, logically, it makes sense. Hey, I've got an extra $500 in my pocket. Why wouldn't I pay off my mortgage early? And what if what we were taught was just really meant to keep us safe? And what we thought was keeping us safe was actually hurting us from a long-term perspective is kind of what we want to dig into. So I'll just jump right into the example. I'm going to introduce you guys to John. 40 years of age. He just purchased a $300,000 mortgage at 5%. And he's got, again, an extra $500 to be able to put away. The question is, what should he do? Should he pay off his mortgage or should he invest it? Or is there an opportunity to do a little bit of both? I don't know. And again, for those of you who have spent some time with us, this answer probably won't surprise you, but there's been a lot of back and forth on our other channel as it relates to why this is a bad idea, why not paying off your mortgage is a bad idea. I've been called a lot of names over the last week or so. So bottom line is we want to kind of dig into what that looks like. And so in just simple math terms, a $300,000 mortgage at 5% causes about $279,000 in interest. So in essence, we're buying two homes if we just continue the normal payment of $500 a month. Don't believe me? Sweetheart, would you slide over to the calculator, please? I'll show you what a $300,000 mortgage at an interest rate of 5% will do for you over time. So again, where's more? There it is. $300,000 mortgage, 5%, and I got to put in the extra in there, so that's good. And what does that look like over time? Again, in total, you would have paid about $579,000 in total for this home. The $300,000 home plus an additional $279,000 in interest. Who wants to sign up for that? Like, at what point and at what play does that make sense? Does that mathematically make sense? And I hear you, it doesn't. So what if you were able to take the extra funds that you have? You can slide back over to the slides. And if you had an additional $500 a month to apply to this mortgage and reduce this number, because we've all been taught to beat the banks. Why would I not put extra money towards my mortgage so that I can beat the bank? Okay. And here's his goal. John's goal is to pay that extra $500 towards his mortgage. It's going to knock 12 years off his mortgage. And he's going to save himself some interest. And in addition, I'll kind of go over what the mortgage payment is currently and what the mortgage payment would become. But the bottom line is, this is the action. I'm going to pay my home off early. I'm going to save myself some interest. I'm going to beat the bank. I'm excited about that. I'm going to take this weight of this home off my shoulders. And then I'm going to put that cash flow to work. And hopefully you're with me, sweetheart. We're going to bounce back and forth between the calculator.
Okay.
Slide back over to the calculator. And so I just want to make sure we understand what that looks like. So again, we've got a $1,600 a month mortgage payment. And when we add an additional $500 per month, and again, these aren't my numbers. This is straight off calculator.net. So my point is, you can join along with me and just verify what I'm saying is true. If we put an additional $500 a month onto this mortgage, what does that look like? Well, again, it's the same mortgage payment of $1,600 a month, but notice what happens. In total, instead of $579, in total it ends up being about $347. And the savings, because of that extra payment, I am between what it would have cost had I extended this mortgage for 30 years, because I paid it off early, I am saving in interest somewhere around $124,000. And just so we're clear, how long does it take to pay the mortgage off? How about 18 years versus 30? So wins all the way around. My extra $500 went to work. My extra $500 allowed me to pay my home off early. It saved me $124,000 in interest. Like, tell me where the problem is located. Well, if you remember where we started, John is 40 years of age. If it takes him 18 years to pay off his mortgage, John is now 58. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only vehicle John has to carry himself into retirement, but can we agree 18 years is a long time? And my challenge is simply, what could that $500 have done during those 18 years versus going into the mortgage? Because during this 18-year period, the mortgage payment didn't change. So we're not saying that he couldn't make his mortgage payment. He's adding extra to it to pay off the mortgage faster. Awesome. But what if he didn't? So, okay, we jump back over to the slides, sweetheart.
Well, the question is really, it's what is John's plan? What did he want to do? And what he wanted to do, what he had in mind, which was a very popular idea. You put the extra money towards your mortgage now. This mathematically for people makes sense, right? It feels like the safest thing to do. You put your extra money towards the mortgage to pay it off early, and then you take the relief of that cash flow now that the mortgage is paid off. You take the mortgage payment plus the cash flow you were paying to an extra, combine it, and then invest in the market. Now you have a bigger chunk invested for a shorter period of time, exactly. But you've got the best of both worlds. So let's see what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so again, now 12 years off the mortgage by putting that extra $500 on, he saves himself $124,000 in interest. And now his cash flow just increased, meaning he no longer has a mortgage payment of $1,600 a month. He was putting $500 a month onto his mortgage, $1,600 plus $500 a month. He now has cash flow of $2,100. So what if, or at age 58, no longer having a mortgage, but I've got an additional cash flow of $2,100, what if he put that $1,200 to work? And in John's plan, it's all about, hey, I'm feeling great about no longer having a mortgage. Now it's time to invest this $2,100. And again, after 18 years, he's 58 years of age. Where's he putting it? Where's that $2,100 a month going? And what is it doing for him? But the bottom line is we're still going to finish out these 30 years. In a normal 30-year mortgage, it would have gone from age 40 up to age 70. He's now 58. And for the next 12 years, he's going to get this $2,100 a month compounding for the next 12 years with an objective of, hey, 70, I'm calling it quits. 70, I'm going to ride out into the sunset. I'm going to head off to that beach. I'm going to achieve my WTF moment, and I'm going to retire. So the objective is, hey, I need to, for the next 18 to 30 years, I need to put that $2,100 a month to work. And so what does that look like? Well, if we're talking, yeah, that's good. If we're talking traditional market vehicles, it can start out with just simply a brokerage account. What if he got that $2,100? So not at year 5, not at year 10, but right around year 18, got that brokerage account started with the $2,100 a month and invested it. How would that perform over time in doing so? If you slide back over the calculator, I'll show you. So this is just simply an investment calculator. This is not the Vanguard calculator that breaks down how a secure compound or how an IRA or 401k works. But if he was to just simply take that $2,100 and get it compounding for the next, 12 years?
Yep.
And I am saying a 8% return. If you were to Google it, you'd find that the market returns are somewhere between 6 and 10. So I'm trying to give a benefit of the doubt of 8. Is 8 realistic? We can have that argument, but I think I'm being pretty generous here. Pretty generous with a 8% return for the next 12 years on that $1,200 a month. What does that equate to? What are the end results? We're talking about $500,000 in, I'll call it in a $500,000 investment account size at the end of that 12-year period. So, okay. Let's see, anything else? Nope. Okay, so let's slide back over to the slides, sweetheart. So investing that $2,100 a month for the next 12 years would give him a portfolio size of about $500,000. And again, now he's 70 years old. He's headed into retirement. As I mentioned, this is just a simple brokerage account, taking $2,100 and dumping it into a brokerage account. What would that do? Well, once he hits this $500,000 inside that brokerage account, there may be some capital gains impact, but we're not even going to dig into that. The moral of the story is
He's got $500,000 ready to go to work. And what we have here is the impact of time. And this is time that he can't get back. So what if that same $2,100 actually went into a qualified account? And from a logic perspective, you can't put $2,100 into an IRA. You can't. You cannot put $2,100 a month into an IRA because the max is $7,000 and $8,000. You can't. But what if you could, is my point. What if you could take this $2,100 and dump it into a Roth IRA? You would have more money in that Roth IRA than the investment account that we just showed. So you would have more, as in you would have $580,000, and that's $580,000 tax free inside of a Roth IRA. And again, let me restate. The max you can put in is $8,000 a year at his age. He would not be able to put $2,100 a month in, but let's just say the world changed and he could. If that was the case, that $2,100 would translate using the same numbers of a qualified account, about $580,000. And when it's time for him to start taking income, he's going to be impacted by that infamous safe withdrawal rate coming out of a qualified account, which equates to about $23,000 a year in income. Is that enough? And again, it's tax free. Is that enough? And I love this piece. This is $23,000 in today's dollars. Again, this entire strategy has gone from age 40 to age 70. We are 30 years in the future. Will this $23,000 be worth the same dollar amount as it is today? Well, the math says no. So is this enough? Would you want more money to be able to compound for you? And again, I get the logic, but he's going to last 12 years with no mortgage. He doesn't have to worry about whether or not his home will or won't be taken from him. Like, I understand the value here, but at some point, we're going to stop trading our time for money. At some point, we're going to be focused on the next stage of our life, because and our largest asset isn't our home. Our actual largest asset at this moment, at this point in time, is time. And how we use that time matters. So time is the one thing that we cannot get back once it's gone. So waiting till 18 years after your mortgage has been paid off to then dump $2,100 a month into a vehicle, whether it's a non-qualified vehicle or a qualified vehicle, translates to something that I don't see as being enough.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to go reverse on that then. I wish we could pull it up the same way we could before, but go reverse it. So now if you know that assisted living facilities, for instance, are averaging around nine grand a month today, what will they be in 30 years from now?
Okay.
23,000. Oh, we already did it. It's $23,000 a month is what it's going to cost per month in 30 years. That's just 3% inflation. That's just a basic inflation. That has nothing to do with supply and demand. That has nothing to do with level of care, quality of care, or any of the other add-ons that you'll be able to do in the future. $9,000 a month is very typical, is what we're seeing now, especially assisted living. Now, hopefully he won't need that.
Right.
But is the peace of mind that you have today planning for not having to have any of those needs ever? And what happens if you do? That's a question to consider, right? I don't want to sound like I'm being too negative here. It's just realistic, because the argument is it's more realistic to pay off your mortgage, and why these factors are for people. Of course, this is a huge debate right now. And I think a goal for most people in terms of this, then that, I'll pay it off and then I'll invest.
I'll eat my dinner and then I'll have dessert.
Right. But I mean, Nathan said it in the comments just right now. If you have wasted 30 years invested, you think you've invested 30 years, and what you end up with is essentially maybe the equivalent of what you were putting in, just a little over $500 a month. What is it? $700 a month what is what you can take in income from everything that you put in. That's it.
And here's the thing. In most cases, we don't learn this until it's too late. Like John learning this at 40.
Right.
Like this is the impact long term if you take these actions versus I'm now 58 and this is all that I have available to me. I mean, I've got $2,100 a month. There's nothing shabby about that. But had he known, and I think what I'm seeing in the comments that I'm responding to is these are people who they've been conditioned to do this and did a great job doing it. Like they checked a box, feel real good about it. And I'm running up behind them going, but could you have done it a little bit better?
Yeah. And here's the thing. Time can't be argued with.
Right.
You can't get back time. And so do you want to argue that you'll be right? Can you bet? It's a casino, right? You're betting if you're right or if we're right. If this argument is the one to have, or if it's better to just have decided this is what you're going to do and find out later. It's the FAFO conversation, right? Can you afford to? That's what we're trying to do, is just ask the question, ask yourself this question, ask your parents this question.
Right.
What a lot of the boomer generation is learning today, they're today years old learning that what they had committed 30, 40 years to didn't work.
But it's what we're conditioned to continue to follow. My money habits were passed down to me. They aren't the money habits that I created. So in most cases, all I'm doing is following what my father, mother, grandfather, grandmother taught me to do.
Right. And now they can't go back. So there's no point in them talking about how they were failed by following the same system. No point. They only have to do what they have to do now. And so most of them are re-entering the workforce to try to generate some type of income because expenses and just inflation in general. But it's not just inflation. It's that before, like luxury items were the most expensive. Now they're cheap.
Right.
Right. Like a TV, to have a brand new TV back then was you saved up, and now you don't have to. Right. It's healthcare that you have to save up for. It's all of those types of things, and getting access to them, like Medicare, for instance. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the current administration, whether you agree with it or not, doesn't matter. It still is what it is. Yeah. And so if we're not preparing for that, a body of persons could make a decision that could impact what you think you'll have access to, regardless of if you paid into it or not. Right. Yeah, we have the opportunity, but we have the time to prepare, and that's the important part. So let's continue.
So just to kind of recenter a little bit. So again, whether you're investing in a regular brokerage account or moving those funds into a Roth IRA, again, I would call these two comparable. And one is taxable, one is tax-free. Pick your poison. The moral of the story is this enough? Especially when you take into consideration the standard Trinity study, or the 4% rule, around how much you can safely remove from your qualified dollars to be able to sustain your lifestyle. And so, there we go. And so, what's worth more? Is time worth more, or is it the money? Which is it? And what if the real path to freedom isn't about paying off your home? It's about making sure you understand where your leverage is located so that it can continue to produce income for you year after year after year. What if you were able to place your home in a position to continue to pay you? Or better yet, understanding the impact of time, what if you take that extra dollar amount that you have and get it working? What if you take that extra dollar amount that you have and get it compounding instead? What would that look like? So, and again, just kind of looking at the basic math around, if he would have just to simply start investing that $500 a month starting at year zero, and allow that $500 to build for the next 30 years. What would be different? Again, it's the same $500 a month. You invest it instead of paying down the loan. And If you don't mind jumping over to the investment calculator, again, these are not my numbers. I didn't magically pull this out of thin air. What I'm saying is if you take 30 years and let's see here, and get that $500 a month compounding in the same vehicle, basic brokerage account, it's fine. What would that look like? How about $700,000? How about a brokerage account with $700,000 inside of your portfolio? This is your opportunity to now have a little bit more than you would have had. Is that enough? Better yet, what if we take this $500 a month? $500 a month is $6,000 a year. This dollar amount can be contributed into a Roth IRA. So whether it's a simple brokerage account or putting it into a Roth IRA, go ahead and back over to the slides, sweetheart.
Well, I'm going to come back in here because you keep talking about a Roth IRA, but the truth is we're only talking about the most common Roth condition, so we can compare apples to apples and not include tax.
That's it. I'm
Taxes
just
on that
looking at it
income.
from what if it was a taxable account versus a non-taxable account. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
But you could also have a Roth 401k and put more in there. And we're just not talking about that because that would just, for those who don't know, they go, what? I didn't even know that existed. It does. Tune in, subscribe right now if you didn't know and you want to know. Okay, but I just wanted to make that note that what you're talking about is unrealistic because you can't put this much money into an IRA. However, you could with a Roth, and regardless, it doesn't matter. So if you're putting the same amount of money in the account, just for the people who love to argue, I'm just going to throw this out there for them. If you're putting the same money in the account, then what you have to consider is the fact that that income or the distribution that you would take from that would then be taxed. So what are we talking about? If we're talking about $9,000 30 years from now, then we're talking about $9,000 but taxed at the rate that you'll be taxed at 30 years from now. Maybe that will be less.
Well, let's look at the data. What does the data say?
Well, maybe we could hope if we're strategizing to pay taxes in the future and we're not preparing for that, then we're hoping, right, that it would be true. Okay, so maybe then we'd have to also understand what that it would be if we had about $200,000 more in the account, about the difference, right?
That's it.
Okay, so $200,000 more in the account in 30 years, and that's a good thing. It's more versus less. Anybody who's doing math says, yes, that sounds like a good thing. So what are we talking about? Maybe $12,000 a year extra? Who's that helping today? Because you don't remember you're retired. So this is the income that you have. This is like the main income that you have because this is what you invested in so that you could maintain a lifestyle, so that you could take care of yourself. And now you have $12,000 today. Just pretend it's $12,000 minus taxes. Maybe you could add Social Security. Maybe you could add Medicaid, Medicare.
There may be other vehicles here. Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe not. So the point is, let's plan forward. Let's keep doing the math.
And that's the part. It's time. As we think through this, where are the opportunities to be able to leverage the assets around you so that you can put them in a position today, right now, so that when that future date hits, you don't just have the one 401k that I have with this company that I spent 35 years with, plus maybe Social Security. I've got multiple streams, whether they're 12,000 each, I've got multiple streams all added together to help support me through this next stage of my life. And that's the point. Versus living in this home that, yeah, there's no mortgage on it, but it's just dead equity that I can't use.
Yeah, there's more to just not having a mortgage, though, isn't there?
That's it.
Yeah, we're not really just talking about not having a mortgage payment because that's kind of a loaded statement if you're not including the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So again, investing that $500 a month, again, whether we're talking about a regular brokerage account or even a Roth account, meaning I'm just looking at what would happen if you put in an account that's taxable versus you put in an account that's not taxable, a basic traditional investment account. And the reason I'm using these investment accounts is because this is what we've been conditioned to do. You guys on this channel who have been here a while know we talk about non-traditional actions. I'm not even talking about real estate or a secure compound interest account, none of that. If we were to just look at what majority of America views as the way to be able to generate income and wealth without getting your hands dirty. So it's a brokerage account or it's some qualified account, hopefully in a Roth fashion producing tax-free retirement income. So 700 to 85,000, 700,000 to 785,000 would be, excuse me, would be that range. And so if we would compare the two, is investing now or investing more later, which one would produce the results that you would need to be able to accomplish your true goals? And that is be able to move on to the next stage of your life. And again, just a simple math comparison. This is not complicated. Starting now, using that $500 now and getting it compounding would produce somewhere between a $200,000 difference, somewhere around a $200,000 difference between starting with more later. Why? It's just math. It's just compound interest. And these two will never intersect. Meaning, you could say, well, what if I give the 2100 more time? Okay, you give the 2100 more time, you give the $500 more time, it's just a larger gap. So the moral of the story is time is your biggest asset. And what are you doing now to make sure you're leveraging that time to be able to put your money to work for you? And we have this question asked a lot on this channel, and it is ultimately, what is accomplished by paying off this home early? Like, what actually happened? Well, you saved, or John saved, $124,000. Where's that 124 coming from? Well, we're saying if he had a 30-year mortgage at $1,600 a month and it went to term, he would have spent about $279,000 in interest. But because he took his $500 a month and got it and dumped it into his mortgage early, it reduced that 30 years down to 18. And so the difference between the $279,000 that he would have spent minus the interest that he is going to pay during that 18-year period, that difference is $124,000. Is that a savings though?
Yeah. Did he save it?
Did he save $124,000? Think about it.
Yeah. Is anybody saving the money that they actually, quote unquote, save?
But this is how it's being communicated. This is how it's being conditioned. That, hey, I beat the bank. Instead of paying $279,000 to the bank, I'm not paying $279,000. I'm paying something less. So therefore, I get $124,000 extra in my pocket. Do you though? Is that $124,000 accessible? Did you avoid cost? Or did you save $124,000? Saving implies it's in you can access it. I saved it and therefore I can use it. Was it avoided or was it saved is the question.
Yeah, it's definitely cost avoidance.
And so this also begs the question, are you locking up your wealth or is it just an illusion of safety? Are you putting your money in a position to work for you? Or is this just an illusion of, you know what, I feel better about it occurring? So what would John have traded? Okay, paying off his home allowed him to do what? There's a weight lifted. I sleep better. I understand that, hey, my life is in a better position. Again, it's $124,000 of interest avoided. He didn't save $124,000. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just real quick, can you move it because it's cut off? Just for the people who are like me, and that's going to bother them. Yeah, thank you.
My apologies. So again, sleep better. Again, a weight has been lifted. I no longer, after 18 years of putting this extra $500 into this mortgage, I no longer am wearing this weight of this mortgage on my shoulders. I avoided $124,000 in interest. Again, I didn't save $124,000 in interest. I avoided $124,000 interest. Risk reduction. And that's the risk of potentially losing my home if something were to happen. And again, I'm not saying these are not valuable. I'm not saying that this is not something that we should all strive for. It's understanding what is being given up when we do. Sustainable income. This plan will crumble if the market crashed even once during his active investment period. What that's saying is the numbers that we've run based off investing that $2,100 a month over the next, 12 years, is assuming positive performance, because then these are all market-based products. So this is assuming that the market is doing well over that period. You get one down market. One down market. And again, we've done the math around this before, is what is the impact of a 20% loss in the market? I want to say it's somewhere around a 7-year recovery. So I've got 12 years where my money's compounding for me, but if the market were to lose 20%, it would take an additional 7 years to recover what I lost, just to come back to even. So my point is this the right play? And then flexibility, leverage, and liquidity. What if you had an emergency? During that 18-year period of contributing those extra dollars into his mortgage, while it's paying down the mortgage, which is awesome, how accessible is that dollar amount that's being contributed? What if it's needed? What if it's necessary? And available compound cycles. Again, time is the biggest factor in this process. Compound cycles is saying the amount of time it takes for your money to double. So the earlier you get your money compounding for you, the more compound cycles you have available to be able to build wealth on top of that. And so waiting 18 years before you get your money compounding impacts your ability to take advantage of the time that we have. Again, he's 40 today. In 18 years, we're talking 58. We're approaching retirement age, and we're now just going to start building wealth. And let's answer the question. If he was to get that $500 a month working for him, could, at year 18, he still pay off his home? Meaning, if I'm putting $500 a month into a qualified account or an investment account, whichever one, at year 18, could he still pay off his home? Well, let's take a look. Sweetheart, jump over to the calculator for me. So I want to go back to the mortgage calculator. And that's 30 year, that looks good. So let's come down here to the amortization schedule. Get rid of that. All right. So again, 30-year mortgage, $300,000 is the mortgage amount, $1,600 a month payment, and we're going to pay this off in 30 years. What is that mortgage amount at year 18? Well, at year 18, the balance on that mortgage is $174,000. So again, we're just simply doing the normal approach to paying down this home. I'm just going to pay the mortgage payment for the next 30 years, knowing that I'm giving the bank an additional $124,000 in interest, meaning I'm going to go to term and I'm going to pay the full $579,000 on this home. At year 18, the balance on that mortgage would be $174,000. Okay, well, what would happen if at year 18, inside of the 500, 30 years, yep. So where would we be in this investment account at year 18? Well, at year 18, we would have, again, putting away $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. The total in that account would be $232,000. So if the goal was to pay off the home in 18 years, so this weight has been taken off my shoulders so that I can sleep better at night, so that I can feel better about not having this burden, or I wanted to beat the bank. If the true goal was to beat the bank, couldn't I still beat the bank here? Meaning, couldn't I take the $232,000 that's sitting in this investment account? Now, if we're talking about Roth, he's 58 years of age. He cannot. He'd have to wait a year, 59. But we're talking about a just regular investment account, regular brokerage account, Fidelity, Robinhood, whatever it might be. Could he take or liquidate some of the $232,000 in this account and still pay off the mortgage? He can. But here's what I would hope that you would see. If you came to this point and you know you have enough, You have enough liquid to be able to pay off your home right now if you wanted to. Is that enough to take that weight off your shoulders?
But
And
if you wanted to,
if you wanted to, if for whatever reason, yeah, I don't even know what the circumstance would be, but if there was a circumstance that said, I need to get rid of this home at year 18 because Donnell told me to, I don't know. The moral of the story is you would have, because you put this $500 to work for you, you have a vehicle that would allow you to do it if you wanted to. But hopefully what you would see is, why would I give up my liquidity like that? Why wouldn't I continue making the $1,600 a month so that in 30 years, not only would I have a paid off home, not only would I have no mortgage on my home, not only would I have the equity left in this home with no mortgage, I also have a $700,000 account that is able to produce income for me.
well, there's a few other things here. And in terms of where your money goes, right? You
Yes.
were just talking about liquidity, and it doesn't, what if it's year 9? He needed access to some funds, right? This is where he would have that. Whereas if he's putting $500 a month to pay off his mortgage early, it would be locked up in there. So then he would have to ask the bank for permission to use his own money in that scenario. And that's what we're constantly putting ourselves in, is this we're playing a game that we're trying to beat. And the truth is, if we were structured properly, we would shut the game down. We would stop the game because they wouldn't be creating the board anymore, right? We would know how to strategize our own pathways, and we wouldn't need them as much. We could use them the way that they're using us, and the results would improve greatly as a result. And really, all that is access to information.
That's it.
It's crazy, right?
And
Yeah.
again, we're not here to tell you, like the objective here isn't to say you're doing something wrong. It's to make sure you do the full math, like follow the math through, peel the layers back, and understand the true impact of the actions that we're taking.
Well, and just considering, because I think for some people, it's that there's a term, and it's left me now, but the idea that you're already this far in. So now you're committed to this strategy. So you might as well, because you've already invested this much, you've already gone down this road halfway, right? So you might as well just continue to keep going and making the decision, being able to see that, having these discussions now, even if they're uncomfortable, like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this math? Does this make sense to you? Show it to somebody, start a conversation, and then let us know. What's the feedback? Are we willing to have these conversations? Because if we're not, I promise you, the place that we're going to end up having these conversations are in some assisted living facility, some home, because you had to sell your house to get cash out because you had to be able to survive. What was the point? The point was to keep your house, right? The point was to maintain a lifestyle. The point was to retire, not just survive. And that's the difference here, I think, is a lot of people have retired only realizing they can't even survive. So they have to go back to the drawing board and start a whole new game all over again.
There are a series of comments that came through under that video that stated that exactly. It's my parents paid off their home. They no longer have a mortgage and they're surviving, using the word specifically, survive. Why have we been conditioned to accept just survival? What about abundance? What about the ability to do more than just make that payment? Make sure that the lights stay on. We've been conditioned to do something that, the objective here is understand where your leverage is located so that you can put it to work. Because for my goal for you, my goal for anyone who's listening is you understand where your leverage is located and your ability to be able to put that leverage in position to be able to work for you. And our home, in most cases, is the largest asset we have.
Yeah, there's one other thing, though, that needs to be considered that is in the landscape that our parents did not have to consider at all, actually. It is because there was so many pensions still in the silent generation, right? So then boomers didn't necessarily have the burden of their parents not having enough to survive. Well, what happens? And then they had Medicare, Social Security. They had a lot of provisions because this was the golden age. Like, this was built for them, right? If they're going to squeeze every last drop out, they're going to get it because it was sold. This this hope flag, hope note was sold to them first, right? For them. But now when we're looking at what's included in these bills that are being passed right now or discussed, I guess, some of these include especially the language of getting rid of Medicaid, Medicare, and what would the effects be on seniors. That means that now, so who would be responsible for their care? Do you know the answer to that question? If you go look at the fine print, it's their children, it's their family. They would be legally bound to make sure that they were cared for and that their care was provided. Can you do that? The majority of us could not. So if you're thinking, oh, this will be enough for me, will it? Legally, if you are forced to care for somebody else simply because the government decided like we're not going to subsidize anymore, could you do that? Those are some of the considerations that we have to now add into the equation. It is now a variable so that you're not surprised when they told you it was coming, right? We're not surprised or grasping for whatever the solutions are. And you know where I'm going with this. Can you guess? Reverse mortgages. So the very thing that you wanted to pay off so that you could still own it, so that you could have this sense of freedom, this is where HEAs, HEIs, and reverse mortgages come in. Can you not see the writing on the wall? Congress right now is actually there's a lot of lawsuits out there for HEIs and HEAs because even the government is calling them poison pills. But once they remove this solution from people, what else is going to be available for people? So this has now become private funding, right? Private solutions, privately funded solutions, because people are going to need solutions no different than a title loan used to provide solutions, or a payday loan used to provide solutions for people who were desperate. And they can't tell people that they cannot opt into these agreements with these companies. They can only warn against them. But if you're desperate enough, man, you will do it. But we can do better. That's the point here, is that we can do better, and we don't have to be in that position because we have the information, we have the education, and we have the time to leverage. That's the point. So I hope you keep that in mind, but this is absolute. I don't want this part of the equation to fall off or not be added in at some point in the discussions that you're having at home of what if this looks completely different by the time we get there? What if we are not playing the same game by the same rules on the same board? What if we're playing a completely different game? And what if we don't get to go and collect $200, right? What if that is not part of the rules? And so we have to familiarize ourselves with the landscapes so that we can understand how to win. And I know we can do that. We grow farther and faster when we grow together. So get in here. All right, let's get back into it. Sorry.
No problem. So the math is pretty clear, but most people don't make decisions based off math. They're chasing something that's a little bit, I'll call it, chasing something else. And it's really more about safeness. It's more the feeling and the emotion of, hey, I've done this thing, I've checked this box. And so we want to unpack the real cost of that now. And so there's a catch to this debate. And here's where I actually agree with those in my comments who call me crazy. And that is, I never mentioned where to put the $500 a month. I never mentioned that. What I said was, is there an opportunity to take that extra money and get it compounded? And we have been conditioned to believe when you say invest, you only mean one thing. Well, when you invest in anything associated with the market, you are impacted by market risk. Our ability to be able to time the market isn't there. So the logic or it being a logical move to take this $500 and expect over the next 30 years, or let alone 18 years or 12, I guess, 30 years or 18 years, that somehow the market will not collapse at some point, causing us to have to recover. That's not realistic. So I get it. And then don't miss the impact on taxes. Or how about this? Even if the home is paid off, you still have property taxes that still need to be paid on the home as well. So there are these variables that, again, when I'm talking about putting your money in a position to work for you, I agree. What I am not saying is the traditional market is the place you would want to place that. So we have to be careful around where or the vehicles that we identify where the opportunities are. And so John's investment decision or payoff decision overlooks this critical factor, and that is financial security requires both growth and accessibility, meaning the ability to not just allow your money to make money, but also your money is secure and your money, you don't have to worry about your money being lost due to market risk. And if you need that dollar, it's accessible. If you need that dollar, you don't have to ask permission to be able to use it for whatever that action might be. So is paying off your mortgage early truly providing a peace of mind if your wealth becomes inaccessible? So if you're putting that extra $500 a month into your mortgage and you can't access the extra money that you're putting inside of it, you're putting yourself at risk. If you're putting that $500 into a vehicle like a qualified account and you can't access that, you're putting your money at risk as well there too. So understanding where, or not just what actions to take, but where these actions are taken is very important. And so, there we go. What is that back end cost of peace? Meaning, hey, I've paid off my mortgage, I got this weight off my shoulder, but what are the back end costs associated with that weight no longer being there?
Well, because this is the biggest part right here. This is the part. This is what drives people to ignore doing the math. There's enough math for them as long as it lands with peace. As soon as they, as soon,
feel good.
Whatever the variables are in the equation, let me just customize those variables so that the result equals peace of mind. That is the biggest driving factor for math, for doing math about money. And I get it, because money is stressful. Money tears relationships apart. Money tears families apart, friendships apart. It's very stressful because we just don't know what we don't know. And so we're playing a game of whack-a-mole, essentially, just trying to do our best, trying to guess what the right decision is going to be, and that we made the decision in a timely factor that is going to benefit us along the way, right? This is like a Tetris. It's strategy somehow, but whose strategy? Because you should do this, but then not do that. And then somebody else is over here saying, this is tried and true. You should do this. And so you think to yourself, yeah, you can trust that. That's safe. I want to do the safe thing, especially if I didn't come from money, especially if I don't have a lot of money. Definitely don't want to waste it. So I want to do the safe thing. And the one thing that I cannot do is I cannot be productive if I can't sleep. So which is it? Is it peace of mind or is it financial stability?
Right.
Maybe you're not getting both.
What if you could?
What if you could? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about it. Well, this is the part though. If people are blinded by their need for peace of mind, then they're not going to do the math forward. And that's the problem. Is it's hard to go and consult with anybody when you're looking to somebody to consult and tell you the thing that's going to give you the peace of mind that falls into the beliefs that you have about money. That's the part. For some people, peace of mind means I don't want to take any risks. I don't want to make any decisions because I can't learn fast enough. Right. And I don't have the confidence in myself to learn this stuff. That's a real thing. A real thing. You can do it. We know you can do it.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. And if you're here, you know that you can do it for sure. Yeah. And if you're watching the comments for the chat right now, you will see that there's at least 3 different strategies that we talk about here on our channel that already, like Veronica, she instantly went to, yeah, why couldn't he just recast at this point and lower his payments so that his cash flow would go up and then his responsibility, financial responsibility and burden would continue to decrease. Like you could just do that. That's easy. That's an easy go-to for somebody who's paying attention and learning, right? Instantly, she just solved his problem without him even changing anything about anything.
Veronica over there giving the answers to the test, huh?
She is, yeah. She's peeling back the curtain. She is, but that's the point. Is you can't not think of these things once you learn them. You can't unlearn them. That's the hard part. Once you see it, it's hard to unsee. But to that point, just as Veronica is going, now that I see it, I can't unsee it. It is so easy for me to grab these solutions and throw them at an equation at this point. But sometimes it is hard to unsee things that we need to unsee, right? That's the part, is when we are going, we have to have peace of mind. Well, I promise you, Veronica's sitting in the chat right now, and her peace of mind is knowing that she could solve this problem 40 different ways already, because she understands the strategies, and she's going, he could do this, he could do that. Gabo, Nathan, they're all in there going, it could be this, it could be that. It could be a lot of different things just based off of what he has access to. And it's empowering. That part gives you peace of mind, because you know you have options, and you know that if something changes, if there's a variable that changes, you understand how to pivot.
You know what? You need to send the crew over to the comment section of that video and let them break down all of the different.
Do I have crickets? No.
Because that's the part. When you understand where your leverage is located, you look at things differently. And you're right. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so now it's not, I've got this home, this burden that I need to get rid of. It's no, I've got this tool. And how can I put this tool in the best position possible to be able to help my goal? Right?
Yeah.
And it's a shift, because notice, I'm not making more money. I just have a better understanding. And it's a better understanding to know these are some of the actions that I can take with the large, again, in most cases, not all, but in most of our cases, our largest asset ever is the home that we live in.
Yeah. Well, next to the time that we have.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. That's so true. But I want to say to anybody who is arguing against, okay, so if you want to, you can go over to our new channel where we're posting all the edited parts of our live streams over there, and they're going in. Matter of fact, somebody said, would they call us? Idiots.
Man.
They said, why would anybody not pay off their house? Doesn't make sense. You guys are idiots. Well, the math is not mathing on that, sir. But, jury's still out. So we'll see. We're not to the end here. Yeah. We still got math to do. But if you guys wanted to go over there and check it out, if you wanted to get the tea on why we did this particular stream, that's it. Go over there and find that video. Maybe I'll put it in the comments. Don't go now.
Right.
Stay here for the rest of it. Yeah. But I'll put it in the comments so that you guys can find it. Okay. All right. Carrying on.
So again, what if the real risk isn't, I guess, let me reword that. What if the real risk isn't having a mortgage? What if we've all been focused on the wrong thing? Because I get it. Peace of mind is a thing. Like, it feels good when the debt is gone. I get it. But that doesn't mean that I'll call it the expense stops. Even having a paid off home, there's still the property taxes that you have to make sure that we're paying attention to. There's still maintenance and expenses. And again, just because the home is paid off doesn't mean you have a vehicle that is leverageable. And again, using this scenario with John, at age 40, his ability to qualify for a line of credit, or just, again, access to the growth in his home, assuming that there's some growth in his home, it may be a little bit easier. Why? Because he still has his 40-hour-a-week job. He's in a better position financially, and I guess credit from a credit worthiness perspective, versus once you hit retirement age, your ability to be able to qualify for some of these things is impacted, and the cash flow that you have to be able to, use different strategies to address the line of credit is different as well. So even paid off home has risk. You've got the property taxes, maintenance, and the issue with having dead equity, not having access to your equity. And again, is that peace of mind actually riskier? Because again, you cannot access the equity inside of your home without getting permission from a bank, which requires those areas of DTI and credit approval. And again, when emergencies occur, you need access to liquidity when you need access to liquidity. It's not, oh, let's go through this 30-day process with this bank so that I can access some of this home that I've had paid off for the last 18 or 10 years, or whatever the time frame would be. And again, God forbid something happens. Are you able to pivot? Are you able to make adjustments? Are you able to take action, or do you have to ask permission? And does it truly provide income? Meaning, is a paid off home producing income for you? Is a paid off home adding to your ability to be able to make ends meet? My point into that is you can be debt free and broke at the same time.
Yep.
So the objective is, how can I take this asset, put it in a position so that it can generate income for me as well?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming back in. Okay. There's a couple of things here. One is, if you're really doing the safe method, if you're really talking about peace, financial peace, peace of mind, being able to sleep at night, the majority of these people are also saving in a savings account so that they do have access, right? So there's even more money that wouldn't be compounding. There's even more money that wouldn't be avoiding in their cost avoidance strategy for avoiding interest paid, right? There's even more money there that's not being considered because we have no idea how much that would be. But we do know that the majority of people who are baby stepping, the majority of people who are maybe following a protocol that may or may not have worked out for people, proven to not work out for people, but it does satisfy the belief around what we should or shouldn't do, right? And about money. But we can't consider all the factors here because we just don't know. We don't know how much. But if you have a savings and you want to add that into the equation, and you want to see what your savings, what your extra payment would do, and you want to have that conversation and see what would be for your personal situation, you just book a call. We're going to put it up right here. Or on the, here we go. No, that's not it. Here it is. There it is. The sound isn't working. I don't know what happened. Okay, anywho, this is what you do. Just in case you're watching this and you're going, well, I'm doing all of these things and I thought I had peace of mind until you guys just disrupted my peace of mind. Thank you very much, Stidhams. I don't know what to do from this point forward. This is what you do. You just go here. That's free. You can also grab our free resources. We have a lot of them free and on purpose for this reason, because we have to spread this information out so more people can be prepared.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Let's get back into it. What else you got?
So what's the responsible path forward? And let's be clear, John is not being reckless. The purpose, the whole point in paying off that home or paying off your home early is safety. It's feeling safe. It's feeling it, again, weight is removed. I can sleep well at night. And so my question to you is, what if there was a way to achieve both? Meaning you can have the liquidity you need as well as, you can generate and build the wealth that you need as well as doing it in a safe fashion. Can you accomplish both? On this channel, we focus heavy on the and. So it's not just, hey, I'm relieving this emotional burden versus, hey, I'm missing the opportunity on $200,000 inside of my portfolio. What if there was an opportunity to do both? And so most decisions aren't based on numbers. Again, they're based on, I've had this conversation so many times, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think it comes off that way. Because when I ask, okay, let's say you've paid off your home, it's now done. What was accomplished? And I don't mean the obvious, like, hey, I no longer have a mortgage payment, so now that the mortgage payment is no longer due. I get that. I'm saying, how is your financial picture better? Because again, you can be debt-free, no mortgage payment, and broke, not enough to be able to sustain my lifestyle at the same time.
Okay, this is the one thing I will answer for you that I feel like is a great argument for paying off your home early. And it is the fear that if your income stops for whatever reason, that you cannot pay your mortgage, even if you paid for 20 years on this mortgage, that 28 years on this mortgage, you then can't make the payments for 4, 6, 8 months because you have lost your income. Now you've lost your house. This is crazy. It's a crazy risk and a legit fear. So I hear people when they say, this is why you want to get out from underneath it as fast as possible, because it almost feels like the game is rigged against us and they want to take it away from us. Well, welcome back to the HEA, HEI, and reverse mortgage conversation, by the way. Just put a pin every time that comes up, because I hope people get super educated on these products and how predatory they are.
But here's the
Crazy.
thing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it's crazy, but that's the argument. And I hear people when they say it, it is completely a fear that is completely valid.
And that's where time matters. That's where this is an and discussion, because to your point, my fear is I've been paying 20 years into this mortgage and something happens. So if the thought is, so therefore at the start of at day 0, I'm going to put extra money in so I can have this home paid off in something less than 20 years. What if at day 0, you got that same extra dollar amount compounding and working for you and building, so that God forbid you're no longer working. You have a leverageable asset you can then pull from to be able to pay off the home anyway.
Right. But if you don't know that that's even available to add into the equation, that's the part that you believe this is all I have to work with. And so therefore, for the next 30 years, I'm not looking for what else I could add to this equation. I'm staying focused, right? Focused so that I can make sure that I aim properly and hit the target, hit the goal. Because if I don't, there's nobody to be upset about but me. There's nobody out here who is going to be tied to my outcome, right? There's nobody that's going to sit in the consequences with me if this does happen to me. So I have to be prepared. I'm the one who's responsible, and I feel that deeply. That is a completely valid fear, and and to be fair, that is the most responsible argument to have. That it's my responsibility, and so I'm going to do the best that I know how to do, and with what I know, right? Fair?
Absolutely.
But what if you were missing a part of the equation and you were actually robbing yourself? That's the part. That's the part that I wish more people would talk about, is the pieces that are missing. And if they're not talking about those pieces, why not? When they know, if they're in this industry, they understand that they exist. Why aren't they talking about them? Because they don't benefit from talking about them. So you don't get that information. Make it make sense. We've got to do better out here, right? All right.
So the emotion versus math, and again, from my perspective, this is an and discussion. But what's the price tag on peace of mind? And again, it varies from person to person. And to put it in simplified terms, the original mortgage, $300,000, $1,600 a month. Going out 30 years, you would have paid $579,000. That's $279,000 in interest paid. We have been conditioned to believe that we've got to beat the bank. And so rather than pay the bank that $279,000, I want to take my extra money, put it inside of my mortgage. And now the interest that I would have paid compared to the interest that I actually paid, there's a difference of $124K. Let's reframe the conversation though. Would you pay the bank $279,000 to make $800,000? That's kind of what we're saying here.
Right.
If you take that extra $500 and put it in a vehicle that can work for you, we're not talking about paying off the home. We're talking about generating and building wealth. Would you give the bank $279,000 so that you can receive $800? Think about it. Because that, in essence, is the conversation that we want to have. Because to me, when you reframe the mathematical equation, the emotion shifts. Wait a minute, you're telling me avoiding paying $124,000 causes me to lose the ability to make $800? Why would I do that? But that's what's happening when we don't fully peel back the layers and do the full math.
Well, okay. And the other thing, real quick, before you get into the debt, isn't bad. I think that the argument to that is also, well, I just need to have enough, right? It's like, okay, I get it, Donnell. You said I could not have the ability or the opportunity to make $800,000, but I don't need that.
Right.
I just need enough.
Right.
I just need enough. Mind you, what $800,000 is going to be in 30 years? People thought the same thing about $1 million in the 80s, right? That was the goal. $1 million in retirement was the goal since the 80s. And that was so that you could withstand a 30-year retirement, that you would have not run out of money, which a lot of people did, are currently, because that's who's retired now, right? But $1 million is still the goal. $1 million is still not achievable for most people. And if it wasn't enough for the current retirees, then what is enough for you?
Right.
What is the math? That's what I would love to know this. If you've done the math, what is enough for you? What is enough? Because I think you've probably cracked a code. You've probably figured out something that even the Trinity study couldn't figure out, right? Back in 1994, which is why nobody has tried to do it since. All we are looking at is the fact that the math didn't math. And so nobody's updated it other than to say, okay, maybe it's not 4%, maybe it's 8%. Maybe it's 12%, maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 100% because there's only $200,000 in your account and you need that. Let me get off here. Okay. No, I'm letting you go.
So the moral of the story is not all debt is bad, but the first thing that we have to do is understand the type of debt that we have. And for instance, yes, it's a mortgage. Yes, it's a home loan, but can this home be adjusted such that it becomes a leverageable asset? We do this everywhere. That education that you have, that's you investing in yourself. Yeah, there may be debt associated with it, but that investment in yourself hopefully is transitioned or translated into that income that you're making today. And then business loans. Business loans are designed to help fuel and build and grow that business that you're hoping to invest in. My point is, there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. In your home, once you understand it, the current mortgage that you have today, and I get it, it might be a 2.8% interest rate that we will never see again. I fully understand. The question is, how can you use that 2.8% where it is today, leverage this home so that you have a liquid asset available to you to be able to put to work? That's where the recast conversation comes into play that we can dig in at a later time. So Veronica, you're spot on. So debt, not all debt is bad. Understanding how to use that debt is important. And what if the risk isn't having a mortgage? What if we've just been all focused on the wrong thing in general? And so the question is, are we inheriting a peaceful illusion? Peace of mind is not the same as financial flexibility. I go back to, you can be debt-free and broke at the same time. Having a mortgage is awesome. Having a paid off mortgage is awesome. But having equity that you can't access is dead equity. Meaning, once your home is paid off, the only way you can leverage that home is by asking permission from the bank. What if you could place your home in a position to where you can access that equity without needing to ask permission and have the ability to pay your home off at the same time? And again, even we kind of went over this already. Even paid off homes have costs like property taxes and insurance premiums and such. So the real cost, using this scenario from a John's perspective, the real cost is, yeah, we avoided the 124 in interest. And again, cost avoidance, just so we're clear, cost avoidance isn't a real thing. Meaning it wasn't, he saved $124,000. He didn't pay $124,000. So in essence, cost avoidance is an emotion. Cost avoidance is, I feel good about beating the bank. Ha, I won. But that 124,000 that was avoided, that you avoided paying, what did it cost you? And the growth loss, again, the difference between the two vehicles was about $200,000. Putting that extra dollar amount into the mortgage and avoiding not paying 124 translated into a loss in total, just using regular traditional investment vehicles, of a difference of about 200,000. And here's the thing. By not fully understanding how to access the leverage, the true loss equates to about 1.4 million. And that's where understanding how leverage can be used and what this asset that you're living in can be used for is important. So the key is we have to ask better questions. Don't just assume that the bank that sold you that mortgage is selling you that mortgage because they want to do right by you. When you get a moment, Google the word mortgage. What is the Latin definition of the term mortgage? It's called a death pledge. It was never designed to benefit us as the consumer. It's the bank's number one selling product for a reason. We've already done the math. If you've got a $300,000 home with a 5% interest rate and you pay that out in that amortized schedule over 30 years, you're giving the bank $279,000 for a home that cost you $300,000. You bought two homes. So who is truly benefiting from a mortgage? And I can hear it. Well, Donnell, that was the whole point of me putting $500 onto the mortgage so that I didn't have to do that. But what is the value of that $500 a month and the time that it takes to compound? Can you do better? Can you accomplish more with that $500 by putting it to work in a better, or putting that $500 in a better position? So takeaway, time. The biggest factor in this process, and sweetheart, you said it multiple times, the biggest factor in this process is time. John at 40 versus John at 58. John at 40 putting $500 a month to work for him versus John at 58 putting $2,100 to work for him. The math is the math. Liquidity is the true freedom. Your ability to pivot and take action when you need to pivot and take action is far more valuable than living in a paid off home. Dead equity serves no one. Actually, it's serving the bank. And then structure. We've talked a lot about putting extra money to work, but where? Where should that extra dollar go? I am not a fan of I'll call it investment accounts, accounts that are tied to the stock market solely. We haven't dug into it, but we will. And that is the math around how you generate wealth versus the math around what investment looks like. Those are two different equations. You want to sleep well at night. The goal should be, how do I eliminate risk? How do I reduce the risk associated with my money working for me? Because that's ultimately that was John's goal today. It was, hey, I want to put this $500 a month into my mortgage because I know it's benefiting me because I'm no longer having to pay this interest. Not looking at the backside or doing the full math on what not allowing that $500 a month to work for you elsewhere was actually doing. But still, he's looking for security. So is there a possibility to be able to take that $500, put it in a position to where it can securely grow for you and not be impacted by market risk? Is that possible? Well, 100% it's possible. And let's see. Oh, there we go. Everything in the picture almost. There we go.
Oh. No, we need to keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. Oh, yep. Okay, there you go.
Okay, there we go. That's an awkward slide. So you don't have to choose between safety and strategy though. Meaning there are vehicles that allow you to accomplish all of it. This is an and discussion. This channel is focused on and. This channel is focused on actually two things. It's focused on understanding where your leverage is located and how to take control of it. Meaning, not only should you be able to focus on making sure you can take that weight off your shoulders, but also the right strategies involved to be able to help you generate, compound, build wealth for you over time. Meaning there are hybrid strategies. There are strategies that allow for you to also have the safety that you need, but also strategically build wealth. Portfolio growth, capture long-term investments and return. Accessibility, the ability to have access to the growth on your dollars, and in all cases, tax-free access to your liquidity. What are those vehicles? Again, going back to this scenario, if we were talking about market, anytime I go to access my money for my dollar sitting in the market, again, just a traditional brokerage account, there is a capital gains impact. If we're talking Roth, that's awesome. But notice I'm paying the tax up front to be able to access the tax-free portion on the back end. And if I want to access those funds before I hit retirement age, I'm going to be penalized if done so. So the objective is, what are those vehicles that can give me tax-free liquidity access regardless of age? Without some company telling me I have to wait till a certain age, or the government saying I can't access my dollars to a certain age. And then still, and allowing you to put those dollars in a position to be able to pay off your mortgage if you choose to. And again, if you choose to, if the burden is so heavy that it needs to be done, fine. I want a vehicle that's liquid enough for me to be able to do so. But I'm telling you, when you see this, you can't unsee it. When you see your money working for you, you start to question those expenses that you thought were so impactful. Sweetheart, if I was to mention countertops, does that sound familiar? Right? When you start focusing on, when you start seeing money compounding and working for you, those things that you thought were important no longer become important. Like, you know what, I want to blow up this kitchen because these countertops have been there since 1992. Knowing that if I do that, I'm taking money out of this machine that's actually generating wealth for me. Those countertops are still countertopping.
That's right. Those windows are still windowing. And we had another window person. If you saw our Windows live stream where we were talking about the $100,000 quote that we were given by like 4 different window companies, who came in and said, like, you guys have to replace your windows, right? We'll make you the model home, put a sign in the yard, give you a discount, only be $100,000 only. Then they say 10-year guarantee. So all the ads say, if you have windows that are older than 5 or 10 years, what are windows doing? What are they doing that in 5 or 10 years, we have to replace the dang windows? Well, there's a lifetime guarantee, except for the fact that windows, I said, we had a lifetime guarantee on these windows. So how come they don't work anymore? It's flooring too, right? Like, gosh, you got to get rid of that floor. Is your flooring 5 years old? Gosh, get rid of that flooring, right? There's a whole culture around this. And of course, we understand it. Companies wouldn't stay in business if people weren't, committed and signed up for this stuff that they thought, you got to do it. I'll tell you one thing you do have to replace is your roof. And you do have to take care of is your roof. Okay. But where are you going to get that money if it's all locked up? I think this is the part, because you're absolutely right. I couldn't unsee it once I saw it. And all of a sudden, it didn't feel like I was getting a deal on anything, right? I love a good deal too. Like, give me a deal. Love a good deal. Love to find a good deal too. Like, just happen upon a great deal on something that I really, really love. However, when you start to understand money coming out of the machine and what it's actually costing down the road, it's not just costing me, it's costing my grandkids too. And I think to myself, if my grandparents, if my parents, if my great grandparents would have thought about me and the decisions that they were making, wouldn't my childhood and my whole life would have looked completely different, just simply because they were able to say, no, I understand the true cost of that down the line. And it's not worth it. I wouldn't do that to them. I would want to pay it forward, right? I would want to make decisions that were best for me and my family, understanding that they're going to need help. Like this, it's not getting any easier. So we need help. And how is this house, Antonio? We feel like we live in this old house, okay? The way we talk about it, but the truth is, this house became a machine.
It's
It
a
was
tool.
it
It's
was,
a machine. It's a tool to use.
and that's the part. I don't know if you saw that, if you covered it already, about this is part of our story, what the strategies that we talk about and what we were able to do. We turned our house into a bank. So is it possible to pay off your house and reduce your responsibility? Yes. But if we're talking, if that's the only focus, is reducing the pressure, reducing the responsibility, we're never going to reduce the pressure or the responsibility. There's always going to be some there. The difference, though, is being in a position and knowing that you can get to a position because you understand how to strategize yourself into a position. That's the hack. That's the power, because you can't have financial stability or peace of mind. Peace of mind is only temporary because you have it now with what you believe about your situation until your situation changes, and then all of a sudden you no longer have it. Peace of mind comes with true peace of mind comes with power behind it, financial power, and that's the difference. So this isn't to tote or to brag. This is to say we didn't know any of this was possible. What would you say, 7, 8 years ago? Yeah. Wouldn't even a twinkle in our eye at that time. We then started picking up one strategy at a time. And we would go back to the people who taught us those strategies and we would say, hey, can these two strategies work together? And because they weren't doing it, they would go, why would you want to do that? No, I don't know how to figure that out. That's not what I do. Just don't worry about that. Just stay focused on this one strategy.
But not only that, you're also dealing with people who sell stuff.
Yeah.
And so they only sell the strategy that they sell. So when you try to merge this strategy that they sell with something that they don't, it's like, well, no, of course not. The only thing you need is this thing that I sold you. No.
Well, and they weren't tied to our outcomes. So what was the
Exactly.
benefit of them learning how to do that, right?
Exactly.
But when you keep asking questions and you keep pushing because you're going, well, why can't it? Why can't these two things go together? This just seems like peanut butter and jelly at this point. Why don't they go together? Why can't I put them on a sandwich if I want? Do you guys remember? Okay, quick story time. We're just going to do little tiny rabbit hole. Okay, come with me. Do you guys remember back in the day, you make a sandwich? Maybe you're doing this today and you thought to yourself, you know, what would be amazing in the sandwich is if I got those potato chips, those Ruffles potato chips, and I threw them in the sandwich. Not only did it give it structure, texture, crunch, right? There's this like something different happened when you added that layer of chips in the sandwich, the soft bread, the soft meat, like you can bite through all of those layers, but then you had to crunch through the chips. And then when it came all together, right? There was just this magical thing that happened. You could have the chips on the side if you wanted to, but the day that you took the extra effort to just like layer the chips inside of that sandwich, if you know what I'm talking about, jump in and tell me, because this is the difference right here. If somebody decided you can't put those chips in the sandwich, just because it makes sense to you, just don't do it. Nobody's been doing it. Don't do it. Why would you want to do that? And you realized like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And then you're like, I'm going to tell other people to try this. And then all of a sudden, because you weren't born knowing how to put chips in your sandwich first and foremost, okay? Or whatever the hack is for the recipe that you do with food. You know, I'm a foodie, so I have to, my analogies with food, that's just where I go. Chips in the sandwich is the way. Ty is like, yes, team chips in the sandwich. Thank you, Ty. Really appreciate that. Okay, Stephanie, thank you. Welcome to the chat, by the way, Stephanie. Just had chips in my sandwich yesterday. Game changer. Okay, now imagine somebody is like, don't put the chips in there. I don't know how you put the chips in there. I don't even know where you get chips from. Who cares about chips? I sell sandwiches, right? Or I sell chips. Who cares about putting them in a sandwich? Just have them on the side of the sandwich like everybody else, like normal people. And then you decided to try it. You were like, game changer, like Stephanie just said. And now you're trying to get the word out to other people so that they'll put the chips in the sandwich. And they're going, no, just have the chips on. I have chips in with my sandwich. Sure, I do. You're like, no, put the chips inside the sandwich. Like, it's got to be in there. It's got to be a whole thing. It's an experience. Do it. And once they do it, they go, holy cow, I would have never known. You're like, now go tell somebody else. That's literally our YouTube channel.
That's it.
Financial chips in the sandwich.
And to your point,
Subscribe.
we're not telling you to do something we're not already doing,
Right.
right? We figured out how these things go together. We figured out how these things are aligned. Let's give this information away as quickly as possible. But we do have to start with the foundation. And I think that's what cracks me up about this video with all of these comments. I understand what I'm telling you is challenging what you've been conditioned to believe is true. That's the part. That's the reason why you should listen, because I am absolutely challenging what the bank told you should, what that advisor told you sitting in front of him going, hey, look at this great interest rate you got, and all you need to do is, or at Ramsey, all you need to do is pay this extra to pay off. I understand. Ask the question, who benefits from you having this information?
Yeah. And you know as well as I do that if you were going there, I'm going to bring this up. Has to be cheddar and sour cream ruffles. Why does this track so well? This has to be like a fact, like in a Guinness book or something. Has to be a fact. The point is, if you went to the store and you knew it's not possible for them to be out of both cheddar and sour cream ruffles, all the chips are gone. And you go to ask somebody and you're like, hey, can you see, are you guys really out of chips? Can you go look in the back and see? Can you go look in the back? It's like the famous thing of like, no, I need my fix right now. Can you go look in the back and see if you have any more, please? Begging, asking for a friend that's also me. Just, could you please? And they just don't want to. They just don't want to go look in the back. So they're like, no, what we have out here is what we have out here. And you know for a fact, there's a possibility that they've got a whole box in the back. And they just don't want to go looking for the box. You would have to go to all of these other stores. They just don't want to look in the back because it's just, what's the benefit to them? They don't care. They're not the one craving the chips. They don't want the chips in their sandwich. They don't know how, they're telling you like, just have a regular sandwich, man. Like give it up. Give it up already. Just have a regular sandwich. And you're like, I don't want a regular sandwich anymore when I know I could have a sandwich like this. Like, could you just go in the back? And they don't want to. And that essentially is what that's most of the financial advice out here is they don't want to look in the back. They don't care. Just have a regular sandwich.
Not tied to your outcome.
They are not tied to your outcome. They do not care about what experience you do or don't have and how it can be improved or enhanced, right? If it's not going to benefit them. And what is good enough for you is what is good enough for you is because they're not tied to your outcome is good enough for the amount of time that they're going to spend or invest, right? In learning. So, hey, yes. All right. Well, we've got a lot of comments. We've even got some questions, but I'm going to let you finish. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we're pretty close too. So again, the point is you don't have to choose between safety and strategy. And there's examples of that. And without going into a whole lot of detail, using this exact same strategy, if you were to use the traditional approach to things, starting at day zero, putting away $500 a month into a traditional qualified account or investment account, what if you took that same $500 and put it into a secure compound interest account, a leveraged IUL, a life insurance-based product? Why would I do that? We haven't even brought that up. Like, how do you introduce something that you hadn't even talked about? That's the point. There are other opportunities out there. There are many ways to get to 10. There are many ways for you to be able to put your money in a position to be able to win. And I am with you for those who go, I feel more comfortable. It feels safer to be able to take the dollars that I have and put it into my mortgage because they're not at risk. Well, what if you had a vehicle that you could place that same dollar amount in with little to no risk to allow you to be able to achieve a similar to same dollar amount, but produce tax-free income on top? And the leverage piece, understanding where your leverage is located, understanding how to put that money to work over time. Again, that traditional vehicle, yeah, that $700,000 or I think it was $785,000 inside of a Roth IRA would be great, or a Roth account in general would be great. But what if that same dollar amount could produce an asset or a leverageable asset the size of something closer to, what is that, 1.4 million, if I'm not mistaken? 1.4 million. Again, I know we haven't dug into the how, but just understand there are other vehicles out there that will allow you to accomplish the same goal. And the goal is, how do I put my money to work for me? Not just dump my money into this dead asset that I can't access and or use for income. There are other options out there available to you, but you first have to understand the vehicle that you have. So, and what if we applied that same thought process to starting later, meaning starting at, year 18, and inside of a traditional account like a normal investment account, or even a Roth-based account, versus a liquid, properly designed cash value life insurance-based product. Again, the dollar amounts are similar, but the true value of the asset, again, a life insurance-based product, the true value of this asset when you add in the death benefit is something totally different. And this is starting 18 years later. This is taking that 2110, I think it was the dollar amount, 2110 a month, and getting that money compounding. What would it look like? Again, the difference between these two vehicles is time. One starting at day 0 for 30 years, one starting at year 18 for the remaining 12, for a total of 30. The difference is time. Being able to take that dollar amount and putting it to work for you. Where you put it matters. Your accessibility and the size of the asset generated and created matters. The point of all of this is your home is a tool, but it can't be used as a tool if you don't understand what those levers are that are available to you. The traditional approach to mortgages is, hey, rather than pay this extra interest to a bank, I need to try to beat the bank and focus on dumping all of my liquidity into this home over the next whatever period of time to be able to pay it off as quickly as possible. And I get it. You feel better. The burden has been removed. But how much liquidity do you have as a result? Versus being a bit more strategic about that home you live in, realizing that your home is a tool, it's a vehicle, it's a machine. It is designed to work for you. It just so happens that today, that mortgage, that death pledge that you have with the bank is designed to benefit the bank. Is there a better way to put your home in a position so that it can be used as a tool, so that you do have access to liquidity and you can leverage it to be able to generate wealth for you over time? That's the goal. The goal is to understand the vehicle that you have and do what's necessary to shift it to a vehicle that it can be leveraged. And financial freedom, or I guess real financial freedom rather, is really about, the first step is that path to ownership. The first step is understanding how to qualify, what are those rules required to be able to get into a home, and be conscious of this. We haven't really talked about this much today, but this process is not going to get easier. The homes are not going to get less expensive. So the requirements for you to be able to qualify for your first home is something that we need to take action on today. But once you have that home, your ability to shift and pivot and adjust that home so that it's a vehicle that you can access and use is the key to provide you that liquidity, being able to dump liquidity from that home into another vehicle, which ultimately allows you flexibility to be able to pay it off if you choose to, early or not. So to your point, sweetheart, this is exactly how we approached our current home. Our home is a tool, it's a vehicle. And so what we're headed into next, won't be today, but what we're headed into next is breaking down how we were able to pay off our home in 4 years. And this is one of those issues that my wife and I go back and forth about, but I had to finally concede that yes, we were able to pay our home off in 4 years. and put that equity to work to be able to build and generate income, or put our money in a position to generate income over a long-term period. And the reason she and I go back and forth as to whether or not we truly paid our home off in 4 years is because we didn't leave it there. It didn't stay there. Meaning the home was paid off. We used that leverage to be able to buy other assets or put that money to work, which means the balance increased again, which means now we have to pay it off again. So it becomes this accordion, again, this machine, this tool that we can pay down, pay off, leverage and use, balance goes back up, pay it down again, leverage and use, pay it down again. It becomes this tool to help us generate income and put money to work. So instead of seeing our $375,000 mortgage at 3.25%, which is an awesome rate, we transition that mortgage into a leverageable tool that we now access and use over time to be able to generate wealth. So stick around so that you can understand how we went about it, and hopefully that can also apply to how you can take action as well.
That's right. We don't gatekeep here. So definitely come back. And if you, or you can actually go and find the video now that is our story. Essentially, we walked through the entire thing. We have not held back, but you're absolutely right. I think you make a good point. The reason why we couldn't for a while, we were like, okay, maybe it's 6 years. We paid it off. Maybe it was 5 years. Maybe it was, we actually had to go back and figure out what this was. And here's the reason why. I like what you said about the accordion. I think of it like breathing, right? You have to take a breath in and breath out. When we got equity, when we walked into equity for one hand, that was just a smart move that we did on our part. But when we went to go leverage the equity, when we were paying down the HELOC, to implement the payoff strategy, right? Because that was again,
the original goal.
We implemented one strategy at a time as we picked them up. We didn't have all access to all of them like you guys do now. We were adding them. So first it was, we could pay off this house. Holy cow, that's a cool thing.
Burden gone.
Right.
Well,
yeah. Financial peace of mind, right? We were completely in line with that idea. We were completely in love with that idea, right? And then we went, wait a second, we could put this equity to work. So instead of waiting until we paid off the house and then using the equity, right? We know time is the most value. We didn't want to waste time. So we put that equity to work. So that's why if we would have done a FIRE approach to this, right? Did this, then that type of thing, we would have paid it off. Then we would have leveraged the equity, or then we would have invested the cash flow, and we would have done one thing after another. If you're looking to track your results in this way, and maybe you're doing a case study on yourself, maybe for science, I don't know, not for results, but for science, right? Just wanting to know, you want to do it that way, then that's fine. That's on you. Do what you want to do. We knew that wasn't the most effective thing to do. So that's why it's hard to track. But once we started figuring out, okay, if you take the car that we financed, if you take this investment that we purchased, if we take all of these things out, at what point would our cash flow would have just paid off the balance of that mortgage? And that's where we got to that. But we did not use it in that way because that wasn't the smartest thing to do. Yeah. So we hope you have that same problem. We hope that your equity is working so hard for you that it is really difficult to figure out where one stopped and what the other one started, because you have wins on wins on wins that you're not even counting anymore. You're just staying focused on winning and putting that money to work, putting your time to work, making sure that any income that comes in is making even more income for you, so that when you go to retire, you're not asking questions. You have options. And you're not fearing whether or not you're going to have enough. You know you'll have enough. You'll know you'll have enough for you, and not just for you. You know you'll have enough to pass on for future generations too, because you know that they're going to be in an even worse position if we're in this position, right? We know that you will have access to all that information, and we don't have a course. We don't have anything like that over here. We want other people to have these solutions, and we want you to go tell other people about these solutions so that more of us can be prepared. That's really the only way that this is going to happen. We have to fix this problem. We can't depend on someone else to have our best interest for us. The best advocates that we have are ourselves and the communities that we form, right?
Right.
So, all right, we have some questions
Yep,
though.
jump in.
Do you want to? Oh, do you want to just do it from here?
Yeah, I think I can do it from right here.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all,
In case I need
they're saying we need to have a sandwich called the Steady with the chips in there. I love that. Okay, so Jay says, so after I pay off the mortgage and pay for 2 houses and get one, the buy 2 get 1, right? I will still have more than I paid for those 2 houses with a properly structured vehicle and the equity in my now paid off house. Like
Right.
I have all of that combined.
Right. And that's where it's different when you put the pencil to paper and you do the math, because it sounds weird almost, right? But the moral of the story is it's about compound interest. Either you're going to take a dollar amount, dump it into your mortgage, and again, you think it's benefiting you, you're just avoiding an expense. It didn't benefit you other than it made you sleep well at night and you feel better. But you take that same dollar amount and get it compounding, get it growing. And again, where you do it matters. I'm not saying Bitcoin. I'm not saying someone down the street that you don't know. Where you do it matters. And the question that you should be asking is, what are those vehicles that will allow me to put money away and I not be concerned about risk? Because I'm concerned that if I take this $500 and put it into the market, Elon Musk will sneeze and all of a sudden my $500 is gone. Like, that is a legitimate concern. So is there a vehicle out there that you can put your money in and grow, compound, and build to the point where not only do you have a paid off home, but you also have a vehicle that could pay that home off if needed and produce income? Yes, that is what I am saying. Yes, that is what we currently do. Not a problem.
Yeah. So this one's kind of exciting here. Stephanie Joe, by the way, welcome to the chat. I hadn't seen her before. Took me 2 years and many YouTube videos to convince my husband, but we finally paid off our house with the first lien HELOC. I am so excited. First of all, welcome. Welcome. Here we go. We love to see it. We love to hear it.
More, though.
Yeah.
I mean, how'd you know by when? Like, how long did it take?
To get the, I think, well, they paid off the mortgage with the first lien HELOC. So I don't know, maybe they're at their
not the repayment period of the HELOC, which now they have equity and liquidity to be able to do other things.
Right.
Game on.
Yeah, but 2 years, took 2 years and many YouTube videos to convince her husband and get him on board. And I will tell you, I was the one. It's hard to be pulling people, right? When they are not on board, when they don't want to learn, when they don't want to see things from your point of view or see what it is that you're trying to communicate to them. It's really difficult to try to pull someone when you know it is not an option for them to stay where they are with what it is they think they know. And that part right there, pushing and pulling a spouse when it feels like disconnect, it feels like separation, it feels like we're not headed in the same direction. And one person has to be that committed, that visionary to push through and say, no, please, like, wake up. You have to come with me. You have to see this. And now once they see it, they won't be able to unsee it. Right. And so now they're like, holy cow, like, what kind of financial belief drugs was I on to not listen to you earlier? And there's a lot of layers to that too, but congratulations, by the way.
And I'm very curious to hear her husband's perspective on, it took 2 years. Imagine where things could have been 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, can't make up for lost time. That's unfortunate, right?
But kudos to you, Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie, we're really excited for you. But, that is kind of the point. If you have someone who is trying to shout it from the mountaintops, you might want to pay attention, especially when it comes to time and timing in the market too, right? If somebody's saying like, this is a house, we need to buy it right now. This is the deal. You might want to jump on it, seeing what the market's been doing, right? Those types of things. And then later on you go, yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't get it. When you said chips in the sandwich, I was thinking you were talking about tortilla chips. Like, it just didn't sound very good. I wasn't willing to even try it, but now I wish I would have. Get your chips in the sandwich, folks. Try that if you haven't.
And Stephanie, my favorite question for those who have like you just stated, I paid off the mortgage, got a first lien HELOC. It's the now what? It's now how do you, because now your home is a tool. Now your home is a vehicle to use. How do we now put this home in a position to now generate even more income?
Okay, so update. We have an update. I love this. I even
This
convinced
just
my
in.
husband. Yeah, this just in from Stephanie from the home of the Joes. I don't know. That's probably not her last name. I even convinced my husband to pay down the HELOC with all of our savings. We could literally take it right back out if he wanted to. Thinking outside the box is tough sometimes.
Rule of 72.
Okay.
Because your husband, because I'm confident he was here. Let me just give a real number. Let's say it was $30,000 in savings.
Wait. Stephanie, is your husband, this is probably weird for people when they're watching us, right? Is your husband there right now? Can he come to the screen, sir? We have questions. Okay, continue.
Because this is hard for people. Because to say how about this? I talked to Bank of America last week, and they asked me because we are approaching the time where we may need to get another line of credit. And so I was walking through educating Bank of America on how we use our line of credit. And to say something like, I no longer have a savings account. My savings is actually sitting in my line of credit.
They're like, sir, pause.
Head
That is
explode.
not how you're supposed to be using this.
Exactly. And I asked him, this is a gentleman I was talking, I said, have you ever heard the rule of 72? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, okay, what is the interest rate Bank of America charges on their savings account? You have the information right there. And he said, yeah, I know it's a miserable 0.0 whatever percent, he said. And I said, okay, 72 divided by 0.0 whatever is what number? I think it came out to be like 1,200 years. And I said, sir, what that means is my money in savings will take 1,200 years to just double one time. I said, but me taking my savings and putting that savings into my line of credit, I'm paying the least amount of interest possible at that moment. Which one is mathematically more beneficial to me? Because I'm not making money when I put my money in savings. That's not happening. I'm not saying that. But I am paying the least amount of interest versus making 0.02% or whatever that number is.
Yeah. And look at all the interest you're saving.
Avoiding.
Which one is the savings account? Which one is the real savings account, huh? They're trying to trick us.
And if I need access to my savings, it's sitting there to be leveraged and used to be able to do whatever I want. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Stephanie,
amazing. Kudos to you guys.
seriously, can we get your husband in here though? We have questions. Like, what was the point for him where he was like, okay, oh, he's not here. Okay. He's traveling for work. Well, grab a timestamp for a replay and let us know. Write into us, Stephanie, and let us know what was the moment that he was like, okay, you know what, this changed. This is like his aha light bulb moment. And here's why I'm asking, because there's a lot of people who watch us who are out here learning, same thing, YouTube videos, whatever, and they're looking for the strategies, but they're watching first to learn, then they have to go watch all over again so that they could grab whatever it is that they can wrap their minds around so that they can articulate to their spouse, to their partner, because they know that they cannot move forward. Yeah, you can't push forward without them on board. They got to sign papers too, probably, right? For some of this stuff, they have to be on board. This is like big decisions, big amounts that could make a big difference, but they got to be on board. Yeah. All right. So we would love to know what helped you with that, because we do have a couples convo cards. I wish I could pull them up right now. The couples convo cards are to start the money conversation between you and your spouse so that you can start to see, are we aligned? Are we headed in the same direction? Do we have the same ideas about what the future looks like? If not, now we'll know at least, right? If we're just not having the conversation because it just feels like discourse, or because it feels like confrontation, or maybe it feels like if we have more peace of mind if we just don't talk about it. But at some point, the future versions of you, future you, is going to have that conversation. And so why not make it now? And why not figure out if you're on board or how to get on board or what you have in mind is good enough, right, for you and your partner, and understand where the distance is, how to bridge that gap. And that's where these conversations really are beneficial, to at least just give you permission to start those conversations. But kudos to anybody who's out there who does not have a spouse on board who are learning these strategies, because I'll tell you what, your calendar is filled with the spouses who are on board, and you end up with the spouses who are not on board as well, right?
Absolutely. And there's been an influx of spouses who not only are they not on board, there's separate dollar amounts in the household, meaning one spouse, their income does one thing, the other spouse, their income does another. Man, imagine if you could merge those incomes and address debt and address wealth at the same time. So to your point around the couples convo cards, understanding how to become aligned in these strategies are important.
Yeah, that's really tough. That's tough. But, we were talking about the family bank, and one of the things that prevents people from truly building the family bank is that they don't have unity.
Right.
And what compromises unity? If you if you understand how important your credit score is to being able to access leverage or make moves or reduce the amount of interest that you could pay, right? All of those things, very, very, very good things. If you don't understand emotional credit with your partner and how that would impact trust, the ability to partner up and head together out on a strategy, then you can now see where this division of funds is crippling families across America simply because they lack trust. That's
Right.
it.
Because again, when you identify where leverage is located, you realize it's everywhere, and that emotional leverage between you and your spouse or you and your partner matters as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a couple more. So let me just there's Ty. Hi, Ty. We haven't seen her in a while. When I realized that I still get taxed on the extra money I put towards principal, my eyes were open. We don't get tax breaks on extra payments. Right. So not only like that could be going then in a Roth account,
Right.
right? If you're going to have to pay taxes on it anyway, then why are we not
Building tax-free growth?
right? Because it's only going to help you reduce the interest that one time for that one asset, and the equity is going to do what it's going to do in the market regardless of how much interest you owe, right? So that's not dependent or connected in any way. But she's absolutely right. There's no other benefit. There are far more benefits in strategizing or reallocating those funds to a vehicle that can continue to grow for you, continue to work for you, and continue to result in something far more than stagnant, dusty equity that you obviously are not planning on using or leveraging, right, with this type of paying it off early strategy. But the idea that most people don't even know this part. Not only that, but when you make this payment and if it applies to principal is also a whole other layer to this. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I think you're spot on, because you actually hit on what I was going to mention, but I will add this. There's also, again, there are many strategies applied here, because I'm curious, when you say putting towards the principal, we talk about recasting a lot, right? We talk about taking a lump sum, putting it onto the principal, recasting that mortgage, increasing your cash flow to compensate for some of that tax burden that you may be having as well. So my point is, there's even strategies around how to compensate for that too. And let me also say this, because I don't know that we mentioned this earlier, but I want to make sure this is clear. None of what we've discussed today is one size fits all. Like, this is about fitting your needs, fitting a strategy to your needs and where your opportunities are. This looks different for everyone. And just because the message today is around why paying off your mortgage may not be a goal that is viable for you. That does not mean that it isn't something that, again, for some particular situation shouldn't be done. So it's just understanding, where's your leverage located, how's it being used, and what are those actions you can take with this leverage to be able to improve your well-being, your financial picture. And sometimes that might actually include paying off the mortgage too. I don't know. But my point is, this is not a one size fits all discussion.
Yeah, totally. And I think that why doesn't it just use the same comment for whatever we want to be on here? 2 people, 1 person. We need to write in, excuse me, can we add this feature? Back to the point. T Strong says, we're on Velocity Banking course for the last few months. Remember, we paid off $10,000 in credit card debt, our PLOC, personal line of credit, interest for that time. Wait for it, $56. Credit card interest was easily 4 to 5 times that.
Again,
Man,
you can't argue with the math.
the more you know. And that's it. Yeah. Man, it feels good though. It feels like I could have been doing this the whole time.
Who benefits from us not knowing this?
T Strong. Okay, I know they're doing something in their basement. So he was saying that he just had it on. How many people have you told or tried to tell about this strategy since you've been implementing it and you're like, holy cow? How many people do you think, could you even count? But how many people have been like, man, whatever? That's what we want to know. Okay, I think that's he said my husband definitely needs the visuals. Well, he's my people. Again, welcome.
Exactly. That's why we do it.
Yeah, that is why we do it. I need the
Just saying
visuals.
words is not a vibe.
Yeah, he was telling me all the math things, and I was just like, "What? Do you have pictures? Do you have this in pictures? Because I need this in picture form, please, sir." He was like, "I don't." So I tried to make the pictures, and that's how this channel was born.
That's it.
Literally.
These are facts.
Yeah, it was. I was making the pictures for me at first, and then that's how we got here. Okay, so I think we're good with if I missed somebody's question, just send it in to us. Oh, here we go. Okay. I thought I saw some more. What would you say to a retired couple in their 60s or 70s who are still paying on a mortgage 35 years later, who feel they need to push to pay it off because they're fixed and limited income? That's a good question.
Again, this is that one side. There's not a one size fits all response. It starts with what's the goal. Because let me just give a scenario. I'm in my 70s, and man, I would love to have more liquidity than I have today. Is there an opportunity to pull my kids and my grandkids into a room and sit them down and let's understand how we can leverage this home that I'm assuming if he's been paying for 35 years, he's close to paying off. So there has to be a whole lot of equity in this home. Is there an opportunity for us to get better aligned as a family and build a bank using this home as leverage to start? I don't know. Is there, if I'm in my 60s and 70s and still working, could I potentially qualify for some things that would allow me to be able to get more leverage or access my home to be able to put that money in an annuity or some type of vehicle that can generate wealth for me? I don't know. Maybe the goal is to pay off the home because I don't want that monthly note anymore. Well, is there a second position home equity line of credit approach that we can take that dollar amount, dump it onto the principal of the mortgage, recast down to the lowest possible monthly payment possible, because I'm assuming at 35 years, the interest rate is probably great. So I don't want to fully get rid of it. So maybe we get it down as low as possible and we use Velocity Banking to pay off or pay down that second position, and now use that second position to assist my kids and grandkids, and I become the bank for them. I've got a grandchild that needs a vehicle. Instead of him, killing his credit trying to qualify for some type of car loan, maybe I now become the bank for my grandkids. So this is, so again, there's not a one size fits all. It's leverage. How can we better put that leverage to use is the question, right? So what's the goal?
Yeah, whether if it's 1 + 9, 2 + 8, 5 + 5, 7 + 3, there are many ways to 10. And we fully believe that it isn't one size fits all. I will say this though, the majority of people, if you haven't asked this question, why would they be still paying on a mortgage at 35 years? Why? How could that even be possible?
There are millions doing it though.
Yeah. Well, think about this. They could have pulled equity out at some point. They could have refinanced 14 times every time somebody said, you should refinance and you should lower your payment.
You need extra money? Here's how you get extra money. Guess who told you that? The bank. Why? Guess who benefits from you refinancing and starting the clock over? The bank.
Right. So it's very possible for people to still be paying off a mortgage in 35 years, at 40 years, at 45 years. How about if they lived in a house prior to that and they were only there for 3 or 4 years or under 5 years, they were pretty much only paying interest payments anyway, right? And that's anybody who refinances at the 5-year mark. You're only paying interest. So you might as well have been renting at that point. If you're going to make these changes and you're going to start the clock over every 5 years, you might as well have been renting and put the cash flow, put the down payment and the closing costs and that a huge expense towards something else.
Compound interest.
Right.
Vehicle. This is that rent versus
Man.
buy discussion. There is logic around continuing to rent versus buy. If maybe my job sends me to different cities every so often. So I'm never landlocked in one place. So maybe it makes sense for me to rent and put that money to work elsewhere, right?
Yeah, there's again, many ways to tend, but what is the goal? If the goal is not financial stability, if the goal is not financial security, if the goal does not result in you having tax-free passive income, then let's make a new goal. And we hope you'll join us here. I think that's all the questions for this evening. I think. Oh, T Strong says church group 6 to 10, other friends about 5, so 12 to 15. None have believed enough yet. Yep, they're time, right? And that's the thing. Now you can't see how the time that they're wasting. They'll come around, keep pushing, and they'll be thankful that you didn't give up on them. Okay, well, do you want to come back or no?
Oh, we can do it right here.
Okay. All right. We always like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family.
Make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. Time is the most valuable resource that we have, no doubt. And we are so grateful that you're spending your time here with us. If you're new here, please subscribe, like this, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you have been over to our new channel, we'd love that feedback too. But we want to make sure that you get the information in your hands, and we're going to show you how to get that in just a second. And of course, I say every, unless we're traveling or can't, every Tuesday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, we are here and we are live. So this is a great opportunity to meet others who are on the same journey as you and ask questions or just get in here and have fun. We hope to see you next week. Again, Tuesdays, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Until then, grab these free resources and we hope you have a great week. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Oh, wasn't ready, right? Okay.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
self-directed.